Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our next portion of our lessons on dividing decimals. Today, we're going to be focusing on dividing a 4-digit decimal dividend by a 1-digit whole number divisor. We're going to talk about what to do with that decimal when it's in our dividend and what to do when we have what would normally be a remainder, but we can't have a remainder because we're working with decimals. So we're going to cover both of those topics. So this morning we're going to work in a format kind of like the Avid 3-column, but this time it's going to be the problem. We're going to show the standard algorithm here, the cookie thief method here, and then put our answer here. And remember, the answer to a division problem is called a quotient. So I want you to label that as well. The first problem that we're going to work today is 39 and 42 hundredths divided by 9. Now, even when you have a decimal, there's nothing different about how we set it up. Our divisor goes on the outside, dividend goes on the inside. Now, we're going to go ahead and mess with this pesky little decimal and get it out of the way now. There is no decimal in our divisor. It's simply a whole number. So therefore, in our dividend, we're just going to draw an arrow up and drag our decimal up into our quotient, and we're done with it. Now we simply divide like we would normally do with long division. 9 cannot fit inside 39, but it can, or I'm sorry, 9 cannot fit inside 3, but it can fit inside 39. 9 can fit inside 39 4 times because 9 times 4 is 36. We then need to bring the 4 down. 9 can fit inside 34 3 times because 9 times 3 is 27. We have to regroup. Bring down our next number. 9 can fit inside 72 8 times because 9 times 8 is 72. We have no numbers to bring down. We have no remainder, so we're done. And our quotient is 4 and 38 hundredths. Now let's take a look at these steps in the cookie thief method. Our divisor still goes on the outside. We build our apartment building. We have a small first apartment, bigger second apartment, and a little bit bigger on our last ones. Now, I'm going to put my decimal on the wall in between, and just like we did in the standard algorithm, if there is no decimal in your divisor, all you have to do is drag the decimal up into your quotient and then divide like normal. The cookie thief is told by his mob boss to go take a look at this apartment complex, and he has to steal cookies in sets of 9. He looks in the window of the first apartment and he's mad because he can't take any cookies. He writes a 0 above the window, and 9 times 0 is 0, and he watches as 3 cookies escape the first apartment and run next door. So he circles the building until he comes to the window for the second apartment. And this time he's happy. He can steal 4 sets of cookies, which means he takes 36 cookies out of the second apartment, and that leaves 3 cookies that he could not steal to run away next door. He circles the building again until he finds the window for the next apartment. He's happy this time. He can steal 3 sets of cookies, and so as he takes his 27 cookies that he can steal, he watches as the 7 cookies he couldn't steal run away next door. He continues circling the building. He comes to the final window of the apartment building and he gets really excited because he can steal 8 sets of cookies, which means he gets to steal all 72 cookies and no cookies get away. We're left with the exact same quotient of 4 and 38/100ths. Now let's take a look at a problem that while working it, we're going to come up to a bit of a snag. We're going to divide 36 and 1/10 divided by 2. Standard algorithm, just like we have been doing. Our divisor goes on the outside. 36 and 1/10 on the inside. We do not have a decimal in our divisor, so the only decimal is in our dividend. So we are simply going to draw an arrow up and drag our decimal into our quotient, and we're done with it. Now we can divide like normal. 2 can fit inside 3 one time because 2 times 1 is 2. We have 1 left over. We drag our 6 down. 2 can fit inside 16 8 times because 2 times 8 is 16. Now we drag our 1 down. 2 cannot fit inside 1. 2 times 0 is 0. Now here's the problem. In decimals, you cannot have a remainder. You have to keep dividing until you have no remainder left. So how do you do this? All you do is you come up and you add a 0 to the end of your dividend, because now you can bring that 0 down. 2 divides into 10 5 times. 2 times 5 is 10. Now we have no remainder, no numbers to bring down, and we have our final quotient. Okay. Let's see what happens when we work this with Cookie Thief. I have the same divisor. My dividend doesn't change. My first apartment is small. Second apartment is a little bigger. I put the decimal in the wall. My next apartment is a little bigger. Okay. The Cookie Thief is told by his mob boss to visit this apartment complex. So he goes and he looks in the first window and he says, I have to steal cookies in sets of 2. So he goes, okay, I can be happy with that. He's able to steal 1 set of cookies, so he takes his 2 cookies and 1 cookie escapes and runs next door. He circles the apartment building until he comes to the window for the next apartment, and this time he gets really happy because he knows that 2 times 8 is 16, so he gets to steal all 16 cookies and no cookies escape next door. He circles the building and he comes to the 3rd apartment. And he says, dang it, I can't take any cookies. And he watches as that 1 cookie escapes. But this decimal is going to cause us to find a magical 4th apartment that the mob boss didn't know about. So that cookie ran away to the magical, just now found 4th apartment. And as the Cookie Thief is circling, he finds that 4th apartment and he gets really excited because he knows he can steal 5 sets of cookies to get all 10 cookies. No cookies escape, and he gets to take all of them back to his boss. Both methods found a quotient of 18 and 5/100ths. So just remember, if you have a remainder, then you haven't finished. If you're working with decimals, you have to add zeros to the end of your dividend until you have no remainders and nothing to bring down. All right, let's take a look at our next problem. Same format as we've been doing. This problem has us dividing 54 and 8/100ths divided by 8. So standard algorithm, 8 goes on the outside of the house. As our divisor, our dividend goes on the inside. There is no decimal in our divisor, so the decimal in our dividend is just going to go straight up. Excuse me for the coughing. Now, if I know my multiples of 8, I know that 8 times 1 is 8, times 2 is 16, times 3 is 24, times 4 is 32, times 5 is 40, times 6 is 48, times 7 is 56. So I'm just going to write my factors out there, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm looking for a multiple of 8 that is less than or equal to 54, which the closest I can get is 48, which is 8 times 6. I have to regroup. 14 minus 8 is 6. Now I bring down my next digit. So if I know that 8 times 7 is 56, 8 times 9 is 63. So I'm going to have to do 8 times 7 to get closest. And I know that to get from 56 to 60 is 4. You can do that mentally, or you can regroup. Either one. 10 minus 6 is 4. And I need to bring down my next digit. And I know that 8 times 6 is 48. Now, I have no numbers from my dividend to bring down, and I have no remainder. So I'm done. Let's take a look at this with Cookie Thief. The Cookie Thief is called out to an apartment complex. He knows that the first apartment is kind of small. They always seem to be. But the other apartments are usually a little bigger. So just like before, we have no decimal in our divisor. So the decimal in our dividend is just going to come straight up. He looks in the first window and he knows he can't steal any cookies because he has to steal in sets of 8, and there's not enough. So he watches as those 5 cookies run next door. He circles the building and he comes to the next apartment. And he says, well, I can steal cookies, so I'm happy. And he knows that he can steal 6 sets because 8 times 6 is 48. We regroup. 14 minus 8 is 6. And so he steals 48 cookies from the second apartment and watches as 6 other cookies run away next door. So he circles the building again, and he comes to the third window. He's a little happier this time because he can steal 7 sets of cookies because 8 times 7 is 56. So he steals his 56 cookies, and he watches as 4 cookies run away next door. And he circles the building again, and he finds the last window with 48 cookies, and he gets really excited because he knows that 8 times 6 is 48, so he's able to steal all of the cookies in the last apartment. Yet again, our quotient is the same for either method. All right, that's where we're going to stop for this video. If you have any questions or need any support, you know how to ask. Have a great day, everybody.